So, all right. And I think this is it. I think we are live. So, this is a super, super delayed, super late book cult. I think that we were supposed to do this 3 or 4 weeks ago almost. We're like at least 2 weeks late here. But that's okay. We are covering today Witches Steeped in Gold by Ciannon Smart. I think this was my pick. This is one of my picks. I was really excited to read this book because it was inspired by, I believe that the writer, the author, Smart, is, she has Jamaican heritage. I don't know if she was born there or if her parents were, but I know that she's diaspora. Hopefully I'm using the correct pronouns as well. And yeah, I was really excited for that. Like they talk about Obianting and I vibes in when it comes to that. So let's talk about let's read the thingy the thingy thing. That comes on the description. This is from Goodreads. It says, divided by their order, united by their vengeance. Iraya has spent her life in a cell, but every day brings her closer to freedom and vengeance. Jazmyne is the queen's daughter, but unlike her sister before her, she has no intention of dying to strengthen her mother's power. Sworn enemies, these two witches enter a precarious alliance to take down a mutual threat. But power is intoxicating, revenge is a bloody pursuit, and nothing is certain except the lengths they will go to win this game. This Jamaican-inspired fantasy debut about two enemy witches who must enter into a deadly alliance to take down a common enemy has the twisted cat and mouse of Killing Eve with the richly imagined fantasy world of Furyborn and Ember in the Ashes. I think that's actually a pretty accurate. I think it's a pretty accurate description. Yeah, for sure. So let's go. I would like you to. I like Wally to go first. Give me your thoughts. Give me your vibes. Give me your feelings. And then I will go because I, of course, have lots of thoughts and vibes and feelings to talk about if my glasses will stay comfortably on my face, which they have not done for quite some time. Shay, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Hi, Whatless. Welcome.
Oh.
Hi, Whatless.
Oh, okay. So I will say I dragged my feet really hard on reading this book, and it wasn't because I was not into it. Like reading the description of it, I was there. I really wanted to dig into it, and I really wanted to like it. And then I found myself halfway through this book and just sleeping through it. Honestly, it's I don't know. It may like I listened to the audiobook. Maybe it was the the people that were reading it, but it just I felt like I kept getting lost between which character was which. Everything felt like it was very monotonal to me. Like I had a hard time distinguishing which character was who. So I always had to like roll back to the beginning of a chapter just to even figure out which character am I supposed to be like listening to or thinking like this is like because I just felt like a lot of it kind of blurred together for me. So yeah, I don't know, maybe this subject is just lost on me. Maybe it's just because I'm not as familiar with some of the backstory or something, but yeah, just something about this book didn't click with me, and I just couldn't follow it. I finished it and felt like at the end of the day that I really couldn't grasp onto what the larger plot was really trying to accomplish.
Okay,
That's how I feel.
Whatless says I almost did not recognize you within you. Yeah. It's real funny because what was going to happen was it was going to be purple Nahus, but I had to go to work for 6:30, and by the time they wash out the what you call it, the peroxide.
Bleach?
Yeah, by the time we wash out the peroxide. Hi, Toya. Yeah, by the time they wash that out, it was already 6 o'clock, so I had to leave to come home to start work. And I was supposed to go back to put in the purple, and then I was like, you know what? I've never been blonde. I've never done it before. So hopefully it's not too strange for y'all. Okay, sorry, just a small interlude because I only just realized as they're saying that oh yeah, it's the first time I've been on. Hi, Baba. Okay, come into the lap. Yes, sweetie pie. I love how like he just he just sits there. He just climbs
curls right
into my
in.
lap. Yeah, yeah. Hi. Okay. Yes. He's so sweet. Look at that face. Look at that
Like, I'm
face.
just here absorbing Snuggie.
Yeah.
Snuggie.
Nigoshi says, test chat. I don't know what that means, but hi. I guess he's testing that the chat works. I don't know. Anyway, so I did not mean to interrupt. So Shayna, okay, so Shay gave us her thoughts. Talia, you're next. Tell us what you thought about Witches Steeped in Gold.
Well, you know that I've been having some struggles and so on. And I started back writing, which is a good thing. But this book, I'm enjoying it, but there are a couple of things that are not gelling for me. For example, I'm like, right now I'm halfway through the book, and I feel
This
like
is your second read, though, right? You're halfway through your second read.
I'm halfway through my second read, but this is the read that I'm actually absorbing stuff in. I'm not going to blame the author for me not picking up on anything in the first read because, again, I've been suffering from migraines and blah, 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 blah. Let's not get into that. Right? So, where was I? Right. So, this is my second read, my first read in which I'm absorbing stuff. And it's like, but I'm waiting for stuff to happen. And I'm 50% through. And it's like, but then I realized there's another book out, and I'm like, okay, it's making sense now. The pacing of it makes more sense now. Being Caribbean, and of course, growing up with a lot of Caribbean influences and so on, that I understood a lot, and also having Jamaican friends, I have been understanding a lot more. There's a lot more understanding of the culture and so on, and of the references. And I sometimes felt like it was over-explained to me. And that is a personal perspective because I have, like we did Caribbean literature, so we knew like from their writers and so on. Overall, I am enjoying the book. The second year, I'm 50%, like I said, 50% through. I'm enjoying it. I am seeing the two point of views being a bit muddled, but I think it's because there's a lot of similarities. Like their goals mean so much to them, right? Like, how sometimes you read a tweet and be like, oh wait, did I posted this and it's somebody else, because it just resonates so deeply within you. And I think that is what the author was going for. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it feels like to me, because they are literally on opposite ends. They are literal enemies, right? Even though they hadn't met each other by that point. They're literal enemies, but their goals are that important to them, that their GMC, their goals, motivation, and conflict are very, very, very similar. So I just felt like it's muddled. Yes, it's confusing, but I understand. Like I feel like I understand why. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like it's muddled because the writer can't write. Hi, Shika.
Which puppy? Which puppy is it?
That's Beasley.
It's Beasley. Do we see a Beasley? Can we see a Beasley?
Come here, Beasley.
You guys saw a baby. It's time for a Beasley.
Hi.
Beasley. Look at him.
Oh, he's beautiful.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. I get distracted by animals very easily. I'm sorry. Now I can officially blame it on my fucking ADD. So
It's official.
And
I live vicariously.
I've been tested.
I don't have pets in my apartment.
Oh yeah. Boy, I think neighbors cats. Anyway. Oh no, that neighbor moved out. Anyhow, you were telling us, Talia. Please continue.
Yeah. No, I just felt like I understood the confusion. But I understand that some of that confusion has to lie with me as a reader and not necessarily as a knock on the author. because she's drawing parallels between two girls who have very, very similar goals and motivations, right?
Right.
They're similar ages, they've both experienced loss of family for
Yep.
different reasons, but both, and it's like there's a lot of similarities because they've gone through similar experiences, and that is what makes it hard to separate who is who.
Yeah. I could see
Yeah.
that for sure.
And that's what it felt like to me. But I
Yeah.
am really
I
enjoying it though.
Yeah, I mean, I think the writing is fantastic. It's so well written.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's very
I
well
want
written.
this to be a
It
movie.
was
I think it would make a beautiful
See,
movie.
I
It's
feel
very
I feel
visual.
like this is something for me that would translate a lot better if it were a film as opposed to me trying to read it, because I feel like there were just so many details and references that like and then I tried at the beginning to like, go and research and learn as I went, but I think because I was trying to listen to this on, you know, like a 2 week time scale originally, that I just felt like I didn't have time to go do research and kind of learn
Right.
as I went.
I
Like
don't know. I don't know
if I were to reread this, I'd probably do it slower and try to do a little bit more of that.
Mm. Yeah.
my allergies have been the most disgusting this weekend. So I apologize to you and to the watchers. But let me share my thoughts or sort of my impressions of this. I did feel a lot as though the two main characters were very similarly written. I think that there was and Talia, I think you kind of hit a really important point there, that they had similar goals. I think their motivations were different, but ultimately they wanted the same thing. They were both motivated through similar, if not the same, like sort of issues of the background. One was obviously straight up vengeance, but the other was also kind of vengeance, right? I think Jazmyne articulated her desires differently, and she emphasized it as though this was for the good of the people. But she wanted revenge. She was like, "You killed my sister, you bitch."
Yeah.
Right? Like you're a horrible psychopath. I'm going to murder you, not realizing that maybe you've become the psychopath, honey. Um, Iraya was much more relatable, but I mean, we also spent, I feel, a lot like Jazmyne sort of had a lens that Iraya didn't have, right? That Ira didn't have. But I will say I chose to overlook that similarity because I was so annoyed at the fucking romance between was he boy name? Something with a K?
Yeah. Kirdan.
Kirdan?
Yeah.
Kirdan? Whatever. This fucking romance thing. Sorry, I shouldn't be cussing. Should I be cussing? Anyway, it's my channel. I don't care.
Whatever. Whatever.
This
It's the
romance
internet.
thing. This romance thing between him and Iraya. I was like,
Ugh.
that is not convincing at
Mm-mm.
all.
No.
I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's that it really wasn't convincing, or if the only kind of romance I know anymore is trauma bonding. Like, is
It wasn't convincing
that
to
what
me
it is?
either,
Was
though.
it just me? Was it
No.
just that all we know is trauma bonding, or was this romance? There was no real because a part of the problem for me is that it's all so one sided, right? Like
Right.
often in
Yeah.
romance, because this is not a romance. That's not the point of this story. But you tend to see in actual in a lot of other romance, you get a sort of dual POV where you see them falling for each other. Where it's a subplot or a secondary plot, you don't usually get that. And somehow, though, I don't feel like I really got it here. Like I don't feel like I really saw that falling happening. Obviously, Ray was having her little palpitations and get a little sweaty and thing. But the Divisla fella, Kiran, whatever the hell his name is, because it's been like 3 weeks now since I've read this, so I barely remember anything. But I just remember being like, I know. Because at first I was like, is this a love triangle or is this a betrayal? I think it could be one. And then as Jazmyne started to get crazier and crazier, you were like, okay, no, this is not a love triangle. This is a betrayal. Because everybody saw Kiran's big secret coming from a mile away, right? Like that was please. Everybody saw that coming. But then I was just very like, are all of these things that he's doing intended to make her feel things for him? Because it's working, but I don't think it's working because he's doing it right. I think they're working because he best. If he fine, and anything he do to make a girl giggle, go walk because he best.
He's cute, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's cute and he's powerful. Like there's very
don't need
little,
much more.
you don't, right? You're attractive, you're
just lift your
powerful,
fucking
you're confident.
pinky finger and go.
Yeah, you just like
Mix up exists.
exactly.
What's
so
it?
like,
It was like it's like
I
whatever.
can identify with that, you know. The best thing that exists.
Yes, but not all of us could be Nicola, right? So but that was actually the thing that irritated me the most. I was like, you could also just, and I will admit that this is personal too, because I am really one of those who I do much prefer hello mushy mush. I'm not into love at first sight. Like I can't with love at first sight. And I was talking to somebody else about this recently, that like slow burn is where I live. Okay.
Yeah.
I want these people to like know each other over many, many, many years and then be like, oh shit. Have I loved you this whole time? Were you my person? Right? Like that's fine. You know?
Yeah.
And if it's polyamorous, were you my people? Great. Better. Best. Right? Like that's there she is. But yeah, like in short, I thought that romance was a little hard for me to swallow. And I appreciate that, like in theory, from his perspective, that power dynamic didn't exist because he was like, oh, she's an Adair, so like she's so powerful and this and that and that. But I don't. It was anyway. That romance really annoyed me more than anything else. So like, as far as the stories for the other two really go, Jazmyne and Iraya, I'm not sure that I am convinced either that Jazmyne like tripped into insanity so easily.
Yeah.
Like when she decided to do some of those things, I was like, when did this happen? Was she always this way? Were we supposed to like feel like this was happening? Is this the twist? What is the basis of this twist? I was a little bit confused by that too. I was kind of like, okay, I like it though. Like I like that this is the direction this character went in. I like that she's a bad guy now, kind of, you know, like she's not upholding the kind of morals that we expect a hero to uphold.
Yeah, kind of becomes like this anti-hero, right? And like like I fully appreciated that turn, but I agree. Like I totally felt like this was just kind of dropped out of the blue to me.
Yeah, I love it though. Though. Like I'm willing to forgive it because I like it.
Yeah. So for me, I felt like I was not disappointed in the author. I thought, you know, she's a beautiful writer. I felt like there were a lot of elements to this story that were very quotable.
The world building
was
fantastic.
Yeah, the world building was fantastic. Though I felt like there wasn't quite as much magic as I was kind of anticipating there would be, but I mean, whatever. But I don't know. I think I was more disappointed in the editor. I felt like this story could have been cut in half, like seriously, and done like would have been more captivating, would have grabbed my attention better, and would have still succeeded.
I don't know if I agree with that. From an editor's perspective, I don't know if I agree with that. I will say that I understand. I will say that I understand why you felt like it was dragging.
Yeah.
And I do think that could have been changed. I do think that there could have been something there. I don't know that the story could have been cut in half. I think that's a lot. That's a big ask.
I wouldn't go that far, but I feel like an info dump like an info dumpy style prologue,
Something.
right? Give me like a 5-page prologue. I'm like, oh, okay, and then like just get into the meat of it, because I feel like I'm on the verge of this.
Yeah.
And like I'm right there. I'm ready to jump off the cliff, and I'm waiting, and okay, so it's not happening. And then I'm back on the cliff again, and I'm waiting, and it's not happening. And it's like I just want to plunge. I just want to dive off the cliff, plunge into the water.
So if this were sex, the payoff would be great, though.
What's that? Yes.
No, because I would have given up like 45 minutes ago. Be like, fuck you, I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Wow.
Like, who has time for that anymore? I don't.
The time thing.
Into edging, it would. Okay.
But, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see your point there.
Yeah.
Well,
so
like,
I do wanna say though that I do understand. I understand that. I do feel like there were parts of this where I was just like, why is all of this happening? Can we skip a little bit? But I also think that there are a couple other layers to that. That one, remember that because this is 2 books, there's probably stuff happening here that's foundational for book 2.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a book 2. Is this a duology?
I'm assuming it's a duology. It seems like it. Duologies are hot now too.
Okay.
I've already pre-ordered the next one, honestly. Because I want to see what happens next. And I think that's kind of the point, right? I think the book certainly accomplished its goal when it comes to that. But a couple other thoughts on it, like story-wise, world building, etc. I think that there's a mistake that I make. I don't think that I make this mistake often, but I make this mistake sometimes when it comes to books that are Caribbean/West Indies inspired anything, right? And when I think of that, I think of something very specific. Because we're trained to, right? Caribbean people are trained to think of something very particular when we hear Caribbean anything or West Indian anything.
Especially fiction.
So I had to kind of sit and separate for it's probably one of the things that I liked about the book is that I had to separate what I had expected from what this book was really doing or using its Jamaican heritage, like how that inspired the book. So Obia was not a type of magic, but it was a people, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that the language, the way they engaged with language with patois was also different. I also thought that was a really clever way to, if it's built into the world building in that way, it is a clever way to write for white people.
It's fair.
Not let me be clear, not necessarily for white people, but for people who don't speak patois or who don't speak any of the Caribbean creoles, right?
Yeah. I think fair.
Yeah. I do also think that there were some things that were explained in the world building that were like, I think one or both of you said that there were things in the world building that were explained that didn't need to be explained.
Yeah.
But I'll come back to that again. And Shayna, you mentioned whoever was like the editor that kind of said these are the things that you need to do. I also understand that there are multiple groups of people who engage with a book when it comes out, right? Mm-hmm. Some of them are going to be either readers that you are, there's going to be a loud noise because Mushroom is going to jump down from the loft. Did I mute? Did you guys hear it?
You did it.
You muted in time? Okay,
you're successful. Ooh. Good job.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Great. So I don't know where I was going with what I was saying before because I don't remember it now.
Okay, let me see if I can get you where you were.
But it's about the reader.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember that I was talking about the ideal reader. So have you ever, and I don't know about you, Shayna, because I know that your fiction tends to be speculative, but not necessarily like really hard fantasy.
Yeah.
Talia, though, you do hard fantasy more often. So have you ever sent a fantasy novel or a science fiction novel to somebody who doesn't read that genre And then you get feedback and you're like, oh, you are not my audience. Because the kind of feedback that they give, the kind of things that they want to hear, the kind of things that they need explained
The
are
things they're
things
expecting.
that they read, that your reader know already. Things
Yeah.
that your reader knows. Like I've definitely had, I had somebody, a friend of mine got feedback of some kind from someone recently, and after that she was just like, well, I already know just from this one piece of feedback that most of whatever you have to say next is not going to be relevant, because all of the people who do read in my genre and have read this book, they don't have that feedback, because this is a expectation of the genre. This is an expectation
It's like
of
a
this. This is
basic
an
truth.
expectation
Yeah.
of that.
Right.
Yeah. It's things that these are expectations of what you're heading into.
Mm.
And I think that there's that, because I wonder how many people, obviously this is a fantasy book, you expect fantasy readers,
Yep.
right? But as we're moving into this place where we're seeking more and more diverse books, and we're trying to pull in more and more readers who don't necessarily read fantasy, or who don't necessarily read certain kinds of elements, or seek out certain kinds of elements, what do we add to this to make sure that it's still appealing to them? Yeah. And
I
then
think
and then there's the other layer on top of that, where it's like, if this is not based on popular knowledge stuff, if this is niche, like Caribbean culture or West Indian culture or Jamaican inspired, right? Then you're going to have to explain all of the elements of the niche thing, right? Your world building has to be so much more detailed and in depth, because for lack of a better term, though fairly good term in this case, the white people reading this book are not going to understand it, right?
Yeah.
There was this whole movement,
Or even really just people not familiar with Caribbean culture, this
yeah,
aspect.
that's
I mean,
that's
because
why I say
because that would
good
be
term.
that would be applicable even if, like, we picked up a similar novel that used, instead of like Jamaican culture, if it used, for example, like
If we were like
aspects of
Filipino
Native
culture,
American culture,
or
Filipino
indigenous,
culture,
exactly.
or yeah, insert
But the thing is,
non-European, non-white culture
but
here.
that's kind of what I'm getting at, though, is that I
Yeah.
think that people who are non-white could do that, and most of the other non-white folks would just take it in stride
Yeah.
and learn, like most readers. But white readers often don't want to do that.
Yeah.
because
I
there
think
are
that is a generalization,
yeah.
but that is kind of how we have to treat with it,
Yeah.
right?
True.
That's how we have to treat with it. And I think there was a whole set of talk about this on social media not too long ago, where all of these writers of color, all of these creators of color, when they're doing world building, and that's using their own heritage, whether their own cultural heritage, they
Yeah.
need to do so much explaining. They need to explain why this makes sense, whereas to somebody who is non-white, it would make sense, or they would just be like, okay, well, I'm just this is part of it, like my culture has shit like this too, fine. But they have to do a lot more explaining for white readers, essentially.
Yeah.
There
I
was a
mean,
whole set of talk about that recently, and I think that that's part
maybe.
of this. I think that's part of why this had so much explanation around the
Okay.
world building, but that also helped to create such a fantastic foundation for that world building too.
I had to keep in mind as I read this, and this is not a knock on the author, right? The book was written not just for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was for me, but it was not just for me. So the same way that certain things would need to be explained to me, that would not be like if I'm reading, if you go back to that book that we read, Mara Thieves, right? There were things that had to be explained to me that did not have to be explained to Shayna, for
Yeah.
example, right? And to Shayna, it might have felt overly explained. But to me, it was like, wow, this is great. Did I have to go and look up some stuff? Yes, I did. But not as much as if it wasn't just handed to me. And I kind of like Caucasian readers, for the lack of a better word, right? They've grown up with their stuff being mainstream. When they're done with a book, they close the book and they move on with their lives. They don't like, let me go check Google and let me see what pale hour is. Or, they don't have to do that.
Right, right.
I mean, and so because they've never had to do it, right? Now that these books are becoming more mainstream, my stuff has to be over explained, right? My culture
Right.
has to be over because it's never been mainstream. And if I want Shayna to enjoy it and Shayna to, just giving you an example because,
I know.
Trini,
Feel
yet,
free.
yet, yet, you haven't visited me personally yet. So,
Yeah.
right.
I
But you
mean,
see what I'm
well,
saying? It's like,
one point that I want to make is that, I feel like the way, and maybe this is just like the trend or the way that, you know, fiction is kind of going, or maybe even just like fantasy is going, right? But I feel like we're trying to cram a lot of stuff into one book or two books, right? What happened to like the 10, 14 book series that, we could take
They
our time
suck.
and yeah,
That's what happened. They
yeah,
suck.
yeah.
How
But
many
I'm just
people, how many
like,
people have complaints about these 14, 15 book series that
yeah.
sometimes are never finished, also by old white men?
Well, yeah, we could talk for ages about that, right? But I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be like that many books, but I mean, why are we trying to cram everything into like one or two books? Like, why can't we go back to having, like a 5, 6, 7, 8 book series,
mhm.
and take a little bit more time to like get
We
people
can,
accustomed to these things?
we can. You know what the thing is, though? I don't think that publishing will let us do that for debuts.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair.
So
And I
that's
and I can understand why, right? Because publishers are wanting to publish things that are bestsellers that sit on the bestseller list for months on end, right? And gets people wanting to download or, purchase books, cuz like people just don't do that as much anymore, I think. I don't know.
yeah.
But I think in terms of like being able to fully envelop myself into a new world based off of a new culture, like maybe I'm just old fashioned that way, but like that's what I really want, is just to lose myself in a whole series and take my time kind of absorbing it, instead of kind of being, uh for lack of a better term, just like drowned in it for one whole book.
Yeah.
Um,
Another book that I would have liked to have seen more of, to just see the world. I want to see the world because I've loved the world building so much. Was
Yeah.
Star Daughter.
Oh yeah.
I got that vibe with
That'd
that,
be that'd
and
be
I got
pretty.
the vibe with this. And she's like, and it's like, okay, in the event this is my last book. This was like a YOLO book. In the event this is my last book, let me just give you everything that I have, right? So that
Starlota was also a debut.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I
I
think
have feelings. I
because
have feelings. I have feelings, and I have thoughts.
because save that for the annual wrap up. But it's
Maybe
like
I can make that alone.
I got that vibe, and I
Okay.
don't know if because I wasn't how to put it for this. Again, we grew up with, like, Jamaicans are very close cousins to us, like an arm length away, right? Like, we grew up with Jamaican music, and one of the jokes that I was making with Care earlier is the term brackout.
Well, boy, that
Ha
one, that one
ha.
is the word that really killed me. That's
Every
really
time.
the word. Every time I read that word, I had to be like, Jamaica inspired, not based. Inspired, not based.
So I have had, again, I've
That
been
is not what
traveling
a
so much.
brockout is.
We have a very different version mentally of what a brackout is, right?
Every time I read that word, I just imagine everything stopping and the bass dropping, and everybody starts up to work and get on. Like that's just what I
No,
think
like
of.
somebody upside down
Right?
in a mango tree, climb a tree upside down,
That's it.
twerking.
Why didn't upside down in the mango tree? Yeah, that's it. That's talking right. That's talking like a proper rockouts.
right?
I do
Every
not know.
single time. And they're like, so you hear about the blackout in Cannes? And it's like, uh, with some hard, like, not just Beanie Man, but like Super Cat.
Oh,
You
okay.
understand? I'm talking like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling you now.
like I want to see us a musical with all the old heads. I want some Super Cat. I want some Beanie. I want
Oh,
the
Super cat.
dance hall
Yeah,
heads
boy.
had a
some
Yeah,
real
yeah,
hardcore
yeah.
dance hall.
appearance.
Yeah. But that's really what I agree. That's exactly what I was
I
thinking about every
I
time.
know zero people are gonna agree like that. I want right. So instead of like fight sequences, right, it's like a dance off. Yeah.
Only if Idris Elba
Even
is
Brendan is like,
MCing.
LOL.
I am so, listen, I have not
But
been
I
reading this.
will sign up if Idris Elba is MCing. That's
Who wouldn't though? Who wouldn't sign up for that?
who wouldn't. Come on.
Yeah,
If I'm not
yeah.
gonna get him as a 007, like I need him in something.
I think though, I did like the language. I will say. I will say.
Brendan said it.
Brendan.
Brendan said it. I want a pasa action movie. I feel the Jamaica Ministry of Culture needs to green light this. Right? Bounty Killer and Beanie Man need to come together and write music for this. Right? I want Lady So. I want Lady So.
No, pre-gospel Lady So.
Well, Lady So at no point in her life never lied. Right? Because man really had the least of me problems. She's always been gospel because she always singing the truth. Anyway.
I am going to die.
But yes, a pasa action. Hanging off exactly, Miguel, exactly. Honestly, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't find I asking for too much. I don't find I asking for too much.
Oh. I don't know. I don't know if you're asking for too much.
What, let's say BRB getting food, like we talk about the pasa action movie, and he's like, "Oh God, now it's time for a snack." I don't have the calories to deal with
Let
this.
me get some chicken.
I need some.
And garlic potato.
Get some oxtail
and
stew.
saltfish.
Dude, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Tell him to bring me something back now.
But yeah, so like it took me, I don't want to say it took me out of the element, but it's like Jamaica is not just dancehall and reggae. They do have a rich, deep culture that I got to see. But because I'm an idiot, I want a pasa action movie. But yeah, I saw that movie. I saw it play out in my head.
Every time they said broke out, I got very confused. I will agree that as
I got confused as like, again, like I'm not from that culture and was just like, okay. I had a picture in my mind clearly different than Nicola's, but you know, whatever. It's much better now. You've explained this to me. Much better.
I try.
Now I want to reread this book just so I can have that image in my mind.
Yeah, boy, every time they say broke out, I was like,
I was like,
okay, so you know my kitchen, right?
Talking about.
You know my kitchen, right? The wall that's like chest high for me. I was reading, right? I was like, Miguel, they say broke out again. I put my leg up and handle it, and he was just like shaking his head. I was like, every time, if I do this every single time they say the word broke out, right? We're not gonna get nowhere with the book, but
you will have a whole next child.
Well, that's exactly what's gonna stop me from doing anything ever again. I'm gonna sit my ass down and I can read this book like a proper lady. 25% Caucasian and mixed with
nothing but that make you proper.
That's true. Like I'll pretend to be. Like I'll pretend to be proper.
Okay, mushroom. Okay. I made a terrible mistake.
Oh no. Oh no.
You know what? I'll try to put on the automatic one and see if that works for her. Yeah.
Is it okay?
I don't know.
Okay.
What do you think? Is it?
Like I enjoyed this book partly for all the right reasons and definitely for all the wrong reasons. Right. I love that there were no Johns and Jamesons and Stacey.
Oh God, yes.
I love the unapologetically African based names, or in some cases the Jamaican names. I really enjoy that. I loved that. I love that she took Obia and made them up people, because we will say Obia man or Obia woman or Obia person. We will say that. But to make Obia like almost like a I don't want to say a race, but like a race.
Well, no,
like,
it was they considered it's a class, right? Like, or what is it in the description? In the description they say the order.
Yeah.
So Obia was an order and Alumbra was an order.
It felt very tribal to me to use a term.
Yeah.
Like I could also see this being like D&D based, like, you know, how much gold you have, how much you could do, you know, like you have a specific I saw it and I saw all these things that could be done from it. Like if I had more DM, you know, like actual DMing experience, I would have done this book as a campaign.
Now that you've said it, I might do that.
And I am donating myself to
work
the
your
as
magic.
A player.
I got dice from Amy, so I can play.
That's not a bad idea. I gotta add that to my to-do list. Somebody. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That'd be fun.
Yeah, so this
that
is
would be fun.
Whole campaign.
I would join that campaign.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about some of the. I want to come back to the two main characters. Forget about Kidan. Me business about Kidan. But also like Jazmyne and she Pirate Man. That was also very strange. It was very sudden.
Yeah, just very like sprung upon us, like a lot of different things. I felt like and maybe that's kind of why I felt the way I did about this book. Was this?
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like that is an entirely different. So let me read it out loud for those who can't see it on screen. I wonder, this is from Brendan Alexi. I wonder whether it might be potentially concerning for some in the region that Obia is considered a people, given the existing prejudices around Obia in the Caribbean. Honestly, I think this is a whole different conversation for a time when we have more than an hour. And also, I think that if we can talk about Hinduism and Hindu magic and Greeks and like their kind of godly versions of magic, and the Romans and the Norse and the Irish and all of those others,
would you say
take that folklore, take their mythology, take their languages, and turn them into fantasy for consumption by not just everyone, but also people from that culture? I want to be able to do that too with my culture. I want to be able to rewrite and write and retell and reclaim and everything from my own roots and heritage as a Caribbean person. And I do agree that we have those existing prejudices, but oh my God, I need to sneeze.
Bless you. Sneeze.
Just wait, what?
I blame Talia.
I was like,
because I was about to sneeze, and then you said bless you, and I was like, okay, and then you said something, sneeze, and the sneeze was like, nah.
Hard luck day. I thought I was being helpful. My bad. I take me, no, my fault. I take.
Oh, now all of this hurts.
No, it's funny you said that because then it was like, you know how we used to like tap each other's foreheads like that in school.
Miguel
Same
Oh,
have your
you
thing.
back.
did that. I didn't see
I
that because my eyes were closed.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Whatever.
It
Miguel
was
say that was
manslaughter, murder, okay? It was accidental manslaughter.
what?
Oh,
Yeah. But like
yeah.
I feel like we're trying. We're still definitely in the developmental phases. You know the project that I'm currently working on,
Yeah.
right? Um and we did a D&D campaign based around our mythology and based on like definitive characters like Gang Sarah and Uncle Peter and all this kind of thing. We did that recently. And there were people in the chat that were like, hold up, you're talking about magic and Obi, nah, I can't be a part of this. And they left. They left the chat, right? Which is fine. You have your stuff, but there's still that prejudice that comes from
But I also think that some of that is about some of that is not because they think of it. It's because they think of it as something
evil.
that is true and real and present and in
Yeah.
practice today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I
I
think what a
mean,
lot of people fail to realize is that a lot of what we currently write as fiction, there are many people in this world who do still engage with and practice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's true for a
Yeah.
lot of different things. I mean, like there's um like even if you take something as popular as like the Harry Potter series, right? I mean, you have people that are Wiccan and that still have a whole faith or practice around things like magic. Lack a bit of a better word for it, but even like people that practice like hoodoo and voodoo and kind of the like Cajun French type areas. I know, like,
Santa.
yeah. So it's I can definitely see how it'd be sensitive, but I kind of tend to agree with Care, right? Where I think we can if we can draw elements of different cultures and practices or mythologies from ancient Greece, Rome, Norse mythology, and places like that, or even extending over into the Asian countries. And why not this?
Mm-hmm.
Why not this? As long as it's done, I feel like in like a respectful, kind of authentic way, like have at it. You know,
One
don't
of the
don't
things
don't just be printing printing patterns on a dress and calling it like Navajo inspired, because then that's what gets after everyone.
Oh
one
my
of the
god.
things I like a lot of obia is like pretty much a closed practice, right? Like you have to engage with the actual practitioners. You have to study under somebody, right? And the last thing I want is somebody to pick up my book, my novel, and try to do a spell. So one
Yeah.
of the things I was gonna do is have something as much as I could Obi and Voodoo inspired, but like the disclaimer is up front, these are not authentic practices. Please see your local practitioner for guidance. I'm not playing with those forces. I am not going to have somebody else picking up my book and attempting to play with those forces either. You know what I mean? So these are
Yep.
closed practices, but they're practices that are real. They take place, that they're real people that are going to be affected by it. And I can't put it there for somebody to use what I wrote, to easily access what I wrote, and like harm.
And decide that, oh, this is what Obia look like. Well, let me try. No, and I actually think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That did not occur to me, not because I don't think it's a good idea, because I think now I may do that myself with my own work,
Mhm.
but it didn't occur to me because I was like, this is fiction. You shouldn't be taking something out of what is a fiction book, specifically in the fantasy genre, and then assuming that
Exactly.
that's how it works in the real world, even if you know that
Yeah.
it's something that people practice in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's picking up Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson books and trying to what?
Sorry, go. There's a bee.
Oh, you're talking to me. I was like,
I'm talking to a bee.
what are you
Sorry.
shushing me for? I didn't do that.
We know bees talk to humans. Why can't we talk back to them? But anyway,
Yeah.
bee movie reference.
Just
So yeah, like
excuse me while I ignore care and talk to this
books.
bee. I'm sorry.
You're good. That's funny. Yeah, like there's no reason, like I don't, but you're right that there are people in this world who would not recognize that. There are people in this world who need that warning, who need that disclaimer to be like, hey, yeah, I shouldn't just run with what I see. And in this book, horse, not at all.
Yeah. Being in the United States, I just kind of have to shake my head at that a little bit, because I feel like that's exactly, like, especially kind of in the climate of today, that's exactly what people are doing. Is, taking things that are clearly supposed to be fiction, supposed to be, even just rhetorical, and like taking it as gospel. And I'm like, what happened to people understanding from the get-go that this is fiction, that this is supposed to be, something that is, you're supposed to use your imagination for. It's not supposed to be real. It's not supposed to be taken as, an act, right? And I don't know, that's also a larger conversation for something more than just an hour.
Yeah.
But I particularly liked that they did that. I particularly liked that they brought that to, like, I appreciate this book for things that have nothing to do with the writing, that have nothing to do with. I appreciate. Oh, she's okay. She'll probably come back. But like, I really appreciate this this story, because even though they didn't have any Indian people in the book, I still felt seen as a person.
That's a Caribbean person. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the themes that were present in the book were very, very relevant. Right. We've had our culture stripped from us. I have had both, like, a lot of the family have been tracing, we've been doing a lot of genealogy, only to find out that my maiden name isn't my maiden name. My maiden name is a corruption of a name. The name that we thought was my mother's my grandmother's maiden name on my mother's side is different to the family in India that carries that last name.
Yeah, I mean, even
a lot of things that we lost coming to the quote unquote new world.
Yeah, I mean, even my last name is I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Anglicization. I don't know, of like of a Navajo name, right? And so like Begay is actually just the way that the white settlers were able to, novel whatever like the actual like Navajo name was for my people. Well, for like my family technically. So it's something that's evident, I think, across a lot of different places because of colonialism.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, like, I appreciated this book so much. And even the over explaining, it's like, it felt like, just in case no other Jamaican or no other Caribbean person ever gets to write a book so deeply saturated with their culture, that I'm going to make sure that if I am the only book that you ever read, you are going to get all of it. Right? So that's why, like, I saw it, I didn't like it, but I appreciated it. You know what I mean? The over explanations, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's like, the next 5 years, they're gonna read this book and they're like, "Oh, she did too much. She did too much," and that's fine. That meant that there were other authors contributing to the genre. You know, that they're getting.
If we can look back on this in 5 years and be like, "Wow, that book did too much in terms of explaining and details," it means that we've now had enough in circulation.
It's building a foundation for the future.
Exactly. That it's just general knowledge now, and that would be incredible, amazing.
Yeah, I agree, right? And this is why I love this cult so much, is because, kind of like what I was trying to say at the beginning of this, is that this was a book I wanted to like. This was a book I wanted to appreciate, but I think just because I was in a rush to read it. And I didn't have the time, I felt like, to really absorb a lot of those details, or really even just the background too. Like it was lost on me, right? And that's why I appreciate us talking about this today, because it's made me want to go back and reread it and take my time and kind of try to absorb it some more, so that I can try to see and understand a little bit better the second time around. And I think this is a book that's good for that, for sure.
I'm definitely, yeah.
It definitely desires to be read multiple times, because I feel
I
like
think,
even if you do understand the culture and the background,
yeah,
there's something to be absorbed each time around.
absolutely. And I think that I'm going to do that myself. I think that when the second one comes out, I think it's An Empress Crowned in Red is the name of that one.
Ooh, great title.
Yeah, the book cover is
Those are
also
amazing.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
title is amazing. Like the names, and then just even like a lot of the, I don't know if I could call them like little soliloquies that are happening. Like they're just beautiful. They're beautifully
They're
written.
gorgeous.
I like
Absolutely.
love the prose of this book. Like it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm probably going to read the first book again before I read the second one too. I think I did that with Freybera and Redemptor.
I did that too, yeah.
But I thought that this book was really awesome. I think that the point of the book was to get me to want to read the next one and to get me to love something in this book. And even if I didn't love the characters or their relationships, I did love the world. I loved the world, and I loved I love seeing how the writer, the author, took those elements and used them as inspiration and turned them into something new. And I love that about any kind of tellings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's really what drew me into this book when I did read it. I do want to say, yeah, like it certainly had its flaws when it came to the character arc, etc. Right? I am still a little bit confused. I don't know that I caught whatever signs I was supposed to catch, which is unusual. I'm usually the first person to catch all of these things that people lay out when they drop their breadcrumbs. And so it was strange for me to get to that point where Jazmyne had her sharp turn, and all of that. I thought that was really different, and unexpected. It was good, but I don't know that it was. I don't know that it was demonstrate. Like I don't know that it was a convincing change.
Yeah.
Like why
Like
is
Daenerys
this
in the
person?
last season, in last two
And we don't talk about that here.
Is not that bad?
We don't talk about that here. We don't. No, I just it was just very strange. It was just a very sharp change that I don't know, because a surprise is one thing, right? A surprise, a twist, a change, something unexpected, fine. But we've been following from this character's point of view for the entire book. Shouldn't we have seen this change happening?
Sooner.
Shouldn't we have not necessarily sooner, but shouldn't we, as the people inside of her brain, we should have seen
It should have been foreshadowed.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, there are failing to foreshadow can be purposeful. Choosing not to foreshadow could be purposeful. But it makes, for me, in this particular situation, it makes me wonder how did she, like, if I'm living in your head for 20 chapters, right? I should know you. And that means that when you act in these particular ways, I should feel like
it makes sense.
I saw that. Yeah, it just makes sense. Now, it makes sense in its own way that she became exactly what she didn't want to be. Like you can see that there are moments where she's that's not Beasley.
No, this is Minnie.
Look at that puppy face. I do think that you can see these opportunities for her to change, but I don't know that the change was clear over time. Like because she fought against being that person for so long. I don't think that we got to see or really experience when she finally gave in to that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is missing, is that it's not really clear or specific when she finally gave in to her dark side and became this person. I think that the beginning, it was really evident that she didn't want to be that she was really fighting against being that, blah 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 blah. And she starts off this way, but where she became the other, where she decided to make that turn, or where she did make that turn, we couldn't see it. At least not as clearly as I would have liked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really my only real complaint. That and the fact that the two characters were very similar. They had a very similar voice.
So, Karen, your opinion, do you think that that's something that comes with experience as a writer, or like what's your thoughts? Like, what do you think is, like, how would you change that? Would you do that through editing? Would you do that through writing?
I mean, editing is such a broad term, right? Like editing just means you go back and you make a change in the book, like you edit some line change or a scene change. But you would have to do that. I think. I do think that would require going back into the book and finding places where you can help the reader see her sliding down that slope. Now, I do think that this also comes back to personal taste.
Okay, yeah.
Because maybe her goal was so that we didn't see it. Maybe she wanted that to be from nowhere. And maybe that was purposeful. In which case, damn, girl, well done.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But I personally, if I were writing it, which I hate to say that at all, because I don't think I have any right, like unless I decide to go write some fan fiction, right? I had no right to say if I were writing it, this is what I would do. But my preference when I'm reading or writing is that certain things, I want those to come from out of nowhere, to be like, what? And then other things, I want the dread. I want to know that it's coming for me, and I want that anticipation of getting there.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that her slide, Jazmyne's slide into becoming more and more like the doyenne, Judea, I think was her name. I'm trying to remember what the doyenne's name was. Judea.
Yeah.
She was the doyenne for so much of the book that I can't remember her name.
Yeah. But I like her slide into becoming like the doyenne, I would have wanted to see that. I would have wanted to read that and be like, oh no, girl, don't do it. Okay, no, you're still good. You're still a good person. Okay.
Yeah.
No. Okay, no, you're still a good person. You just did what? Damn it! I should have known. Like I
win all these seemingly good things,
and then you find out that all of it was for bad reasons.
For bad reasons.
Yes, but that's what I mean. Like that's what I like to see. But that is not necessarily what Ciannon Smart wanted to write. And I think that that's okay. It's okay if she decided that that's what she wanted. She didn't want you to see this change coming. I think that's fine. It's just not my preference, right?
Okay. That's fair.
That's what I mean.
What I like though, as we're on the topic of preferences in terms of
hold on the pants.
I like when you drop a twist, and I feel stupid for not having seen it. Like I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I can't.
Yes, but part of the reason we say this, Talia, is because our Lord and Savior Micaiah Johnson,
our Lord and Savior
Micaiah Johnson. Micaiah. I don't know. I hope I say it right either way.
Her Royal Empress.
Did that. Yes. Her Royal Empress. She did that with Space Between Worlds when she dropped that whole, at the beginning about being dead.
Yeah.
I think that took every single one of us. That took every single one of us. And we are not readers who are used to be taken.
And I am not sorry for admitting it. Like,
yeah. It was why
Yeah.
it was so good. It was why it was
Yeah.
so good.
Listen,
Yeah.
I was in a room reading because I was reading off the computer, right? Because bigger screen, etc.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I ran. Miguel will tell you, I ran out of this office. Miguel! I went, run back, and he's like, "What?" He came and he's like, "Well," I was like, "She's dead. She's not her. She's one." And he had to. And poor Miguel knows this story like the back of his hand. He has yet to read this book. Yes, but Miguel knows this story. Miguel knows the characters probably better than most other people, right? Because of me, between book club and me ranting like a mad woman, like a proper cult member, like, the high priestess of the Micaiah Johnson cult. He knows this book like a proper cult spouse should, right? Because
Sounds about right.
I preach from the Bible all the time, right? So he knows. But like, there are certain things that
If
and
she doesn't have a fan club, we need to start one.
Done.
Yeah.
Here.
Let's find out. Let's check. Start a competing fan club if anything.
No. We're a fan club from a different planet. From a different space.
Yes.
From a different world.
Different world.
Okay. I had a point before we went over that. There are several things about that. One is it's very hard to do. Two is it's even harder to do at the end of a story. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's even harder to do at the end. Because at the end, when you drop something like that, like what Micaiah did, if she had done something like that at the end, or if even Ciannon Smart had done something like that quite at the end, right? It would not be a situation where we're just like, stop, wait, what happened? What? Because it's at the end. And when it's at the end, a reader's like, wait, how? Did I miss that? What is that? Where is this coming from? By the time readers get to that part of a book, right, it either needs to be something that literally especially in a first person, it literally has to be something that no one of the points of view could have even remotely seen, known, or understood. Yeah? In order for that to get pulled off. That's the only way it really works in that particular situation. And I don't think, and I think I think in fact that's the reason it doesn't work here, is because we were living in that one's head. Yeah, half of the book we spent in that perspective. Now, the alternative is this person does know it, but it's such a integral, like, background part of this point of view that it never gets really thought of or brought up. At which point you're like, oh shit, it's important. Right? And that's fine. All of those things are fine. All of those things are great ways to if you had to pull that in at the end of the book. But in this specific situation, it was underwhelming because, like, you saw it, but you didn't see it. Like, she did it and you're like, oh shit. And then you go, but why? When did you become this person? And if you need to ask yourself those questions instead of being like, oh my God, I know what I missed. I should have paid more attention to this one detail, or oh my God, that was nowhere. This was such a good surprise. This was such a good twist.
Yeah.
But instead of us having one of those reactions, it was like, but really though?
Yeah.
That goes back into the larger complaint about YA as a whole, that the characters, and this is the entire genre of YA when it is read by a lot of people, and they're teenagers that are going to read this and they're going to come away with that. It's like, but that doesn't make sense. The characters do things that don't make sense, right? And they don't make sense.
To be fair, I actually think that makes sense for Jazmyne to do, What I don't think was that she got to that. I did not see that moral change in the character. I think it makes sense for Jazmyne's moral change to have become that. I don't think we saw as a reader that
Right.
moral change happen as clearly as we should have. And alternatively, we saw just enough of it that when it did happen, we were like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either this shit is hidden or this shit is telegraphed. It was somewhere between there, which makes it confusing. I think that's what I'm feeling. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But again, I think that ultimately that was the writer's choice to want to do it that way, or maybe a decision between her and her editor, right?
Also, keep in mind as you're saying that we say that where this the change comes, where that surprise comes in, is normally middle of the story. And this is a book. It's not a standalone. It's part of a series. So maybe it coming when it did. And I'm simply speculating because I haven't gotten to that point, like consciously gotten to that point yet. It's in the middle of the story, just not in the middle of the book.
That's fair. Something else that I think is worth noting, though, is expectation. I think part of the reason we feel like this is expectation, because if you listen to, what's Pretty Boy name? Kirdan?
Yeah.
Whatever. If you listen to the Pretty Boy fella, the way he speaks to Iraya, you do hear from his perspective, and you do hear from her perspective how these things are changing, how Jazmyne is changing, how she's making these decisions that aren't holding to what Kirdan and she had started with this plan in the first place. So you do get it. These hints are there. These hints do exist, right? And Jazmyne, for her part, is so convinced that she's doing the right thing. She doesn't realize she's becoming the villain, right? She doesn't realize it. And all of that is really, really good. In fact, I think that's what makes it work so well. But I do come back to expectations and reader expectations, because Jazmyne is so convinced she's doing the right thing. And nobody had business with Pretty Boy. Like, who the fuck cares about him and his opinion? Like, I don't care. As far as I was concerned, he was there.
Paul sang.
Watch that. As far as I was concerned, Kirdan was there because this girl Ray needed a little she needed a little love interest, right? Like that's all I'm he's clearly he plays a better or like a stronger role, because I think if you took his role out, there would be some key things that are missing that you couldn't move the plot forward with, which means that he has a role. He's not just a love interest. But if you listen to what Kirdan is saying about Jazmyne and what she's doing and how she's changing over time, then you could see her descent. You could see her descent into becoming just like the Joyette, right? The difference, though, is that for me, and I can't say this for all readers, but one of the reasons that it was a mess for me, well, it wasn't really a mess, but one of the reasons I felt a how about it is because as the reader, I expect her to also be a good person, to also be good, right? Iraya is already going to kill whoever she had to kill, right? She already going to bust people's throats.
Right.
I know. She done do it. She done murdering people all over the place, right? Okay. She broke out. Broke out for them means murder. Okay.
Murder, she wrote.
Exactly. Yes. No, I know what I did there. But you understand what I'm saying?
The
So,
soundtrack
like,
compiles itself.
It does. Oh, it does. It does. But as a reader, I was in that place where I was like, okay, well, Ray, obviously we like her. She's likable. She's written to be likable. She's written in, for all of these purposes. But she's a murderer. She's a killer, right? The only other person we have now to be like a hero in the ways that our heroes are traditionally, right, is Jazmyne. And then Jazmyne is like, nah, fuck that noise. I sacrificing this son of a bitch. I'm going to slit his throat. You know why? Because I don't like him, and now I have a reason to kill him. So I'm going to do it. I want to kill him for the longest time.
So I'm hearing, and I'm going to start over this book, and I'm going to finish. I'm going to start it over because you are giving me a very important tidbit. You know how you said it when I wrote something and you said you write thrillers in a fantasy setting? She is writing political intrigue in a
Yes.
fantasy setting.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And knowing that, I can go back and I can appreciate, like, I'm only halfway through, but I can appreciate so many things better now that you've said it.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because I'm seeing it develop, but I wasn't sure. But that, I felt like that is a very, very key, it's very integral into how I'm gonna read it. Like, that's the lens I'm gonna have to view this book through. And like, you just made your statement there, just made everything I've read so far 10 times more enjoyable. It was already enjoyable, it just made it way more
But
enjoyable.
honestly, I think that's one of the reasons that these discussions amongst us are so important. Because, like, we like, how many times did we go into a book and some people were like, I don't know about this. And after the discussion, we were like, yeah, actually, that was really good. That was really well done. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of that comes back to that idea of reader expectation, because I know I thought this book was good. You guys had all of these issues, and I was like, this was a great fucking book. I loved it. I already pre-ordered the next book. Right? Um oh, okay. So Shay's battery is running out. Let me tie up what I'm gonna say here, and hopefully your battery remains long enough for us to do closing thoughts.
Yeah, that's
Crossing our fingers. Um but yeah, so basically, like, I thought that this was great. And for all that I kind of felt a how about Jazmyne's left turn, I got it. I understood it. And like when you look back at it, you could see it happening. And I recognized that it was my own bias and my own, like, expectation that led me to want her to perform in certain ways. And the author was like, nah, fam, she gonna do what she wants to do. It had nothing to do with you. Nobody cares what she wants. Right? Which is what the author's job is. You know?
yeah.
I do think that that might be a really great way to end my own. I think that that kind of counts for my closing thoughts. Like, I thought this was a great book. I really enjoyed it. I do think this was a political intrigue. I thought this was fantastic. I thought the characters were well written. I think that the characters were also very similar, right? But they were just different enough to be distinct for me. But at least, and certainly by the end of the book, that was achieved, right? They definitely took their diverging paths. Maybe business about Kirdan. Maybe he will come back and flex his little pecs for me. That's cool.
We don't mind, we don't vex.
Yeah, we have Vex for that. Not at all. Everybody liked the little pretty boy now and then. And that's it. I liked it. I thought this book was a vibe. I enjoyed it. I'm reading the next book. Yeah. Shay first, and then Talia,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. And I'll be pretty quick, right? Because I think I said a lot of like what my thoughts were at the beginning of this, and I think just to kind of reiterate for everyone here, like, I did not like this book mostly because I felt like this is not, a culture or, a you know a thing that I'm really familiar with. And then, even though things were getting explained to me really well, it was something that, I didn't take the time to absorb really. And I felt like, be really because of that, I just felt like, the story is really dragging on. I can't really tell which character I'm supposed to be, sitting in the mind or perspective of right now. And it just kind of felt like it droned on for me that way. But I mean, that's, to me, I think, my own fault because, I rushed through this and was trying and, putting all of these things, outside of this book ahead of taking the time to sit and appreciate it and, really try to absorb all the details and things. And I feel like I think I am going to take it upon myself to go back and actually buy this book, put the Audible book aside. I felt like this is something I needed to actually just read, um, to really get the full effect. Because I feel like this is something where, you know, maybe the audiobook has failed, or I've failed the audiobook a little bit, right? Because I felt like I spent so much time trying to like distinguish between the voices of the two characters by listening to it. Maybe if I read the printed edition, it'll do it a little bit better justice. That way I can kind of, read the words on the page instead of just trying to, understand what the person's actually saying. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is why I love book cult because I think listening to both of you kind of share your perspectives, it's encouraged me to kind of go back and think about this a little bit differently, and I feel like I'll be better equipped to understand it and I don't know, enjoy it more the second time around. I'll give it a second try.
I'll put together a soundtrack for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Closing
I'll
thoughts,
try to
Kelly.
I love reading books with like a soundtrack. Honestly, like that's like
Me, I
the
don't
best
want
thing.
this soundtrack for that book, boy.
No, I need it.
Anyway.
I need it. Is what I need.
We have to get the pasa action vibe.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. We love
Tally,
heavy on the
tally.
elephant man though.
I'm
But
here. I'm here for it.
Closing thoughts.
here-
Closing thoughts.
I'm here
my
for
closing
it.
thoughts.
Sorry, before my tone
I
down.
really enjoyed this. I was enjoying it before we started I was enjoying it from before. There were some things that took me out of it, but those are my personal biases, right? Like it's not an over explanation, it's an explanation for those that are used to something else, right? And people who are used to something else deserve a nice treat like this book, right? I could always just gloss over what I don't want. Again, the pasa action movie vibes. She could write a whole series in this, and I know Vex. Give me some more generations of Obi and Alumbra. Just give me more, right? So I could see Spice as a doyen for some very strange reason. I'm loving it. Like I want her with her colored wigs, etc. It's just feeling real sexy to me. But anyway, I am loving this book, and thanks for the thoughts that you all shared. I am loving this book even more. I'm going to start it over, and I think I might live tweet it. I'm going to live tweet it.
The only reason I was going to live tweet Iron Widow when we read it, but then I was like, and then you'll get all my thoughts before book club. So maybe after.
Yeah.
Maybe
you might have an Ace Daddy Dio moment. Like, okay, like this is, and because I feel like if I didn't tweet it, I would not have remembered it. And that is such
maybe
an iconic moment for me. But yeah, what I'll do, I'll live tweet my new thoughts, and I'll try to find a song like to go with it. So each tweet will be accompanied by a YouTube video.
Okay, well, I know Shayna will be following that thread for the soundtrack, and I will just ask you later to get a playlist. So. All right, so everyone, I think our next book 2 weeks from now is supposed to be Seidel's pick, which is The Last Wonder Woman by Kai Miller. I'm not actually sure we are going to do that because I don't know if Sai will be able to attend, and I don't want to do her book without her hair. So it may end up being Iron Widow, which I'm very excited to read as well.
When will we find out for sure?
Yeah.
I'm gonna check in with Sai later this today or tomorrow and find out. Iron Widow is Talia's birthday pick, so it's actually going to be a little bit earlier. The only reason my birthday pick would not come forward is because it's not actually out until the 9th of November, and our next book club is the 7th. So, but we'll see what's up. We'll be back. Hopefully we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we will not postpone again and again the way we did this time. Yeah. Thank you all for hanging out with us and Lyman and watching and hearing we talk about pasa action movies. Thanks, y'all.
I'm here for it. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.